The date was February 22nd, 1861. The speaker stood at Independence Hall in Philadelphia, having made a long train trip from Springfield, Illinois, on his way to be inaugurated 2 weeks later in Washington. The speaker was, of course, our president-elect, 16th president-elect, and he began the remarks in which he encapsulated three powerful thoughts on the Declaration with this ringing statement. Quoting now, "I would rather be assassinated on this spot than surrender this principle," said Abraham Lincoln on that day at the cradle of our liberty, Independence Hall. What was he talking about? He was talking about the words you just heard. "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." Now, folks, it cannot be overemphasized what a revolutionary statement for all human history this was. Every society, every government on the planet had always been top down, from an emperor, a king, a sultan, a potentate, a chieftain, a Caesar, a czar. But here was a nation called into being that said, the people are sovereign. Power inheres in the people. This was entirely new and justified the use of the Latin phrase from Virgil, the poet Virgil, "Novus Ordo Seclorum," which is on the back of our great seal. Novus Ordo Seclorum, a new order for the ages, for all time, for all people. Novus Ordo Seclorum. There had been nothing like it ever. Now, how important was the Declaration to Lincoln? How obsessed was he with it? And it's fair to say he was. He went on to say, "I have never had a thought politically that did not find its origin in the Declaration." Lincoln called the Declaration, those magnificent words, our apple of gold. And he said it was framed in silver. The silver frame was the Constitution, but the Declaration was the beginning, founding statement of the American creed, applicable to all men at all times. Now, Lincoln was no special fan of Jefferson. In fact, he opposed 95% of the Jeffersonian agenda for America, and that's discussion for another day. But on this occasion, he said, "All honor to Jefferson, all honor to Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration." Why? Because he embedded those words at the founding of the American creed and nation and left them there. A stumbling block, a rebuke, and a stumbling block to any who would come forward and try to drag us back to tyranny, oppression, and slavery. So a rebuke and a stumbling block. I love that. That's point number 3. Now, in conclusion, Lincoln was a great study of poetry. He loved the Shakespearean plays, saw them whenever he could, read them. He read the King James Bible that infuses so much of his rhetoric and his speeches. And he loved the poetry of a Scottish poet named Robert Burns. And there is a poem from that era that I want to close with and offer words of encouragement. Just 8 lines, stay with me. 8 lines and 2 images for you to keep in mind. The first image is the waves hitting the beach. And there's no perceptible progress, is there, with each wave? You can go from 1 to 2 to 5 to 20 to 50, and you haven't seen any progress. But there is progress being made. So here we go. And the other image is of the morning light coming in as the sun rises. "For while the tired waves vainly breaking seem here no painful inch to gain. Far back through creeks and inlets making, come silent flooding in the main. And not by eastern windows only. When daylight comes in the light. In front, the sun climbs slow. How slowly. But westward, look. The land is bright. If Lincoln were here with us today, he would say, as long as we remain true to the Declaration, to those magnificent words planted there at the American founding, he would say to all of us, with all our rancor and division and bitterness in today's society, was as nothing that he presided over, 4 years of awful war, he would point us to the west and say, westward, look, the land is bright.